It's very likely that you've already experienced values in some way, shape, or form, be it at work, be it at home, be it in your family, whatever it happened to be. Values are really all around us. However, in the business world, lots of people have been negatively tilted by badly done values. Generally speaking, we see that from people that have come from a corporate environment where values have been rolled out in a really haphazard way, or in really bad cases, the values have been weaponized against their people and used as a tool to bash people over the head, which we never want to see. So I want to take people through what values actually are and what they mean for small to medium businesses. So they're called SMEs here in Australia. In different countries, they're referred to different things. And generally speaking, we could categorize them as businesses under 1,000 people, although the vast majority of them in Australia are going to be under 50 people. But the values can be rolled out really effectively in SMEs and have a huge positive impact. So don't be scared by your previous experience with values in the corporate where they used them to bash you over the head. Let me set you straight, and by the end of this video, you'll understand what they are and why they're so important to successful small businesses. So, what actually are values? What do they mean? And I mean, what are they in terms of what are they supposed to be? They are supposed to be a way of describing and guiding a few things. Now, this is not complicated. They guide what we care about and how we behave. That's it. That's what the values are there to help us do, to describe and guide what we care about and how we behave. Now, this is important for a bunch of different reasons that I'll get into, but here's an example of what we care about on the left and how we behave. These are just examples. These might not represent you. So what we care about minimizing our environmental impact. That could be something that a company cares about. And something in terms of the way we behave is we always take the time to grow and develop our people, both pretty admirable ideas, right? So why are these things important? Why should you actually care about defining and guiding those components? Well, they allow you to set the expectations for all people involved in the business. This is a really critical component that lots of people miss. They think the values is just for a specific subset of people, but no, it is for everybody involved in the business. So when it comes to expectations, if the business leader, so the one who's making the shots, calling the shots, if they have an expectation of always treating people with respect, because maybe that's one of the values of the business, and if there's a ops team, so operations team that has an expectation of always involving people to help them grow, and if the client, this is what people often forget about why values are there, if they have a client expectation that said they care about the environment, why are all these three different perspectives important? Because if you've got expectations, everyone can be held accountable to what they said they would do. If you don't have the expectations, you are going to have problems with accountability. Expectations create objectivity. Objectivity means that people can't escape accountability and they put their hand up because they can see objectively that they are accountable for the decisions they have made. Accountability is fundamental to build trust. You can probably see where I'm going here, why this is so important. So, what does trust matter? Business leaders with trust build more committed teams and more resilient businesses. You can probably all think of a work in the past, or at some stage, it could even be at the present, who knows, where your business leader, you don't trust them, so you don't fully commit to the work, and you're probably already looking for a different job. So business leaders need to create trust to build more effective teams and more resilient businesses. Teams with trust are going to work more effectively together, create safer workplaces. We're seeing more and more cases around the country, around the world, where bullying is taking place. There are a number of lawsuits, big ones in Australia, currently running about bullying in the workplace, and usually it's the team members beside you that are causing those issues. Teams without trust are going to be unsafe in many different ways. And clients who trust your business will keep coming back to you or recommend you. You probably have already experienced that before as well. So setting up the expectations in your business, which is what values are there to do, means that you have a better chance of gaining objective accountability, which means you have the groundwork for creating trust. Here's the other part as well, and this is what people misunderstand, is that misaligning with the values is a great way of working out people you don't want around your business. Let's just say, for example, one of your core values is talking about respect for people, respect for boundaries, respect for everybody's viewpoint. You choose phrasing that works for you. You might have a client that comes along that disrespects your people actively, maybe disrespects you. If you have a strong enough values framework, you should be able to effectively and objectively, as a business, make the decision not to work with that client, even if they are a top paying client. If they misalign with your values, then it means they do not care about the same things that you care about, and they do not have the same expectations of behavior. So having clarity around those values is really key to work out alignment of people. Now, the obvious ones with business leaders and teams on top of that as well. If you have teams that are or team members that are consistently misaligning with the values, it's a good way of working out who is damaging your business rather than building a stronger, more resilient business. So keep that in mind. There's plenty of reasons why you should do this. Now, how do you actually create this? And again, none of this process has to be overly complex. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't necessarily have to hire someone like me, even though I do come into business and help them build and embed values. But I'm going to walk you through the process of what it looks like so that you can deploy it in your business today, tomorrow, if you want to. So how does it actually work? You usually start at the top of the business. Depending on the size, that might be the founder if they're still operational, could be owner, could be key leader or key leaders. Depends on the makeup of the actual business. But we generally need to get the subset of what they care about and what behaviors are important, because if they are the key decision makers, they've got the keys to the kingdom. We must understand if the values that are held at the top cascade through the teams or not. It's actually one of the first places I typically find misalignment when we are working with businesses, is a misalignment in values between the top, the middle, the bottom, however the business is structured. So getting alignment here is really key. So they must exist in the values for them to be real and have any actual impact. So getting that input from the top is really important. How that typically works with me and my team, we might go into a business that has 40 people in it and they've got a leadership team of 3, 4, 5 people, and there's a key decision maker at the top. We will start by sitting with a key decision maker, maybe for an hour, and unpacking, hey, what do you care about? And what behaviors do we expect of yourself and your team? It's not just for your team, it's for yourself as well. Values are for everyone. And then we'll work our way through the hierarchy of the business, however it's structured, so that we get the real input of, well, what do people care about at the top? So that when we go into the middle, we've got expectation of what the conversation should have in it. We usually take the process to draft 3 to 6 values that mean something, and the key here is don't make it marketing fluff and spin. If the values are not real and they're not humanized and they don't actually mean anything, they're not going to do anything. So don't make them sound fancy. Don't make them sound like they will make good copy on your website. Even though you might put them there eventually, they don't have to be good copy. They have to have good impact. They have to be real. They have to create a genuine action off the back of them. That's the whole key. If you don't have that, it's not going to work. So then bring those draft values to your team and shop them together to get a final product, and do that together. Get the weigh-in from your team, because if you don't get the weigh-in from the team, you will miss really valuable perspectives. And that's just as important to get people that have been in the business for 10 years and people that have been in for 10 minutes, because getting those viewpoints on what people care about is really critical. So those resulting values, they have to still resonate with the owner, the founder, the key leaders. So bringing the team on the journey will make them so much stronger, but that has to align with the top, because they are the ones that are going to make the calls in the end of the day for most of these structures. So making sure we've got that throughput of alignment is really, really important. Each value should contain at least 3 parts, which is a values statement. Sometimes that's the title of them. It's a top level line. It should have a meaning of the value, and it should have guiding questions so that when people want to measure themselves against the values, which I'll explain in a second, they have the actual guidance to do it. They're not guessing. They're not trying to interpret them from scratch. Here's an example of a framework. We use a system called ADAPT to do this, which I'll demonstrate another time, which we use it to systemize our values. So we have the value at the top, we explain what the meaning is, and then we define questions so that when we audit those values later on, we know how to do it. We're not just playing guesswork. So we create the values. I normally recommend no more than 4 values because it's going to get a bit long in the tooth. So if you start with 3 to 6 drafts, hone it down with your team, make it 3 or 4 core values that you can start rolling out. Consider the best way to roll them out into your day-to-day. Some people like to tag them in every quarter. They'll do a values audit and they'll touch base with what that looks like. Some people do it more frequently. Once you do it less frequently than a quarter per year, you're really going to struggle to see the actual impact unless you are a very naturally values-driven team, which is in reality not the majority of teams that at least we've worked with in the past. However, you can build up the discipline, the habits around it. Make a plan to embed, audit, and discuss the values. What do I mean by audit? So what's this idea of having guiding questions here? This is to work out if you and your team are living the values. You'll hear that phrase used a lot when people discuss values. Are you living the values or not? Which means, are you taking the actions that you said you were going to take? The idea of auditing the values is you look back as a team, you review X period of time, which if it's a quarter, that's 12 weeks, 3 months, however you want to chop it up, and go, in that time, did we live the values or did we not? Because we said that we would agree to behave in a certain way and we would care about these things. Did we manage to do that or not? The guiding questions in your values framework here is there to help prompt that process. Here's an example of Unveil's values. Embrace transparency, well, you can read them there. You can pause the video if you want to read through them. These all have guiding information. Now, we've gone well above and beyond in our system here in terms of how we do our values, and ours are insanely detailed in terms of how we explain this, because this means that we have really robust understanding of how our values have impact day to day. Not every business needs to do that, nor should they, but if it matters to you and if you want to be very values driven, that's the kind of process that many businesses end up taking. We've just gone a bit above and beyond with that. Here are some really simple do's and don'ts, because it's really easy to muck up the values. So let's get it straight from the top. Do. So use verbs that immediately make the values actionable. Don't make them generic nouns or words that describe outcomes. And this is by far the biggest mistake that businesses make. They get caught in the marketing spin that I talked about before, and they go, ooh, let's make them fancy words that I've seen people use before in their values, and that's what we'll use. And we get these excellence, innovation, respect. We get these one-worders. I don't know why businesses love a one-word value that describes an outcome, because excellence is an outcome. It's not a verb. Innovation is an outcome. It's not a verb. Respect. You see the pattern here. We're not creating action off the back of these. And if our values are there to guide our behaviors, outcomes aren't going to guide our behaviors. Actionable verbs are. So let's move through some other do's and don'ts. Provide direct guidance on how to test yourself against them, as opposed to don't just sit them on the wall and never discuss them. The amount of businesses I've worked with and our team has worked with where they feel like they dust the values off at key moments throughout the business. Maybe it's the annual address or the reported earnings or a key team building event. They roll the values out like it's a little trophy that had to get pulled out of the cabinet. No, it should be something that is guided with the people and how they use them, not just sat on the wall. Do your best to live the values and call yourself and others out when you don't. This is why values matter, is so that you can go, guys, I'm not living the values at the moment. Here's the reasons why. Can someone help me overcome this? Or here's my plan to overcome it. Same with calling out the leader that was disrespectful and going, hey, you said that you would live by these values. They are on the wall. In fact, we put them up there. You're not living them. So I want to hold you to account of that. So don't do this. Avoid ever highlighting when you've not lived the values, because that is running away from accountability. It's running away from trust. So do embed the values into your day-to-day operations in practical and useful ways. Don't make it a 1 hour at the top of every single meeting to discuss the values. Everyone's going to get so sick and tired of them. But embed them into your day-to-day way in some way, shape, or form where they are addressed. Maybe it's the all hands meeting at the start of the week or at the end of the week, where you do a values call out and shout out someone who's improved on a value or demonstrated strong values or something like that. But if you make it too tokenistic, people will get bored and tired of that as well. So make it practical, make it useful, and don't tell people how important they are but never use them. Again, you're going to undermine the entire system that you've built. Now, I mentioned before that this is a way that you can do this. You can use a system like the Embed Adapt system that we use. This can be used to gather values, audits, and information. Final little piece of the puzzle here is, remember, values should provide actionable guidance on behaviors. They should be usable and they should be useful. If they're not any of those things, bin them. If you've got values that are not providing this component, either review them and redo them, or bin them and start again. Because if they are not useful, if your team members can't come to you and go, hey, Dr. Mitch, how are you demonstrating the values this week or this quarter or with what you're doing, whatever it happened to be, if you can't clearly explain how you're aligned to the values, your values don't work. That's the long and the short of it. And if your team needs to bend over backwards to use the values, they no longer have value. So if you're a small to medium business and you're wondering how to go about values, hopefully that provides some explanation, some guidance on how to do it. If you get stuck at any stage, you can leave a comment, you can shoot me a DM, whatever it happen to be. For reference, we work with hundreds of businesses and help guide them through the values process, and we have an excellent track record with it. So hope that helps. Catch you in the next video.